We're about to delve into one of the most disturbing stories in the Bible. A tale so shocking, it's often swept under the rug, ignored, or outright censored. But today, we're pulling back the curtain on Judges 19. This isn't just another Bible story. It's a stark mirror reflecting the darkest corners of human nature. Corners we'd rather pretend don't exist. But they do, and they're closer than you think. Judges 19 begins innocently enough. A Levite, a religious man, travels to retrieve his concubine who had left him. But what unfolds next is a descent into a nightmare that feels ripped from today's headlines. Picture this: a man and woman seeking shelter for the night in a strange town. They're taken in by an elderly host, thinking they've found safety. But as darkness falls, a mob surrounds the house, demanding the man be handed over to be sexually abused. Sound familiar? It should. This scenario plays out in our world every day. Human trafficking, sexual assault, mob mentality. These aren't relics of an ancient past. They're the grim reality for countless individuals right now. But the story takes an even darker turn. The Levite, in a moment of unthinkable cowardice, throws his concubine to the mob to save himself. She's abused throughout the night and left for dead on the doorstep. Let that sink in. A religious leader, someone meant to protect and guide, sacrifices an innocent to save his own skin. It's a betrayal so profound, it leaves us reeling. But before we judge too harshly, we need to ask ourselves, how often do we turn a blind eye to injustice to preserve our own comfort? The story doesn't end there. The Levite, finding his concubine's body, cuts it into 12 pieces and sends them to the 12 tribes of Israel. It's a gruesome act meant to shock the nation into action against the perpetrators. This macabre message leads to a civil war, resulting in the near annihilation of an entire tribe. Violence begets more violence in a vicious cycle that feels all too familiar in our world of endless conflicts and retributions. Now, you might be wondering, what possible relevance could this ancient horror story have for us today? The answer is everything. Judges 19 isn't just a historical account. It's a mirror held up to our society, reflecting issues we grapple with daily. 1. The exploitation of the vulnerable. 2. The abuse of power. 3. The bystander effect. 4. The cycle of violence. 5. The failure of leadership. Let's break these down, connecting the ancient text to our modern world. First, the exploitation of the vulnerable. In Judges 19, it's a concubine, a woman with limited rights and protections. Today, it manifests in human trafficking, domestic abuse, and the exploitation of immigrants and refugees. In 2021, the International Labour Organization estimated that 27.6 million people were trapped in forced labor or marriage. That's more than the entire population of Australia. The concubine story isn't ancient history. It's happening right now, in our cities, perhaps even in our neighborhoods. Next is the abuse of power. The Levite, a religious leader, uses his position to sacrifice someone he should have protected. We see this played out in scandals involving clergy, politicians, and business leaders. Power, unchecked by moral responsibility, becomes a weapon. Consider the number sign Me Too movement. It exposed how those in positions of power across industries use their influence to abuse and silence victims. The Levite's actions, while ancient, feel disturbingly contemporary. The bystander effect is another crucial element. The people of Gibeah, save for one elderly man, did nothing to help the travelers. This phenomenon persists today. How many times have we seen videos of assaults where onlookers film instead of intervening. A 2019 study in the American Psychologist Journal found that bystanders intervene in 91% of public conflicts. That's encouraging, but it still means nearly 1 in 10 incidents go unchallenged. We must ask ourselves, would we be in the 91% or the 9% range? The cycle of violence is perhaps the most enduring theme. The brutal act against the concubine leads to a war that nearly wipes out an entire tribe. This eye for an eye mentality continues to fuel conflicts worldwide. Look at long-standing disputes like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or the sectarian violence in Northern Ireland. These cycles of retribution, rooted in historical grievances, echo the tribal warfare in Judges. Then there's the failure of leadership. The Levite, instead of seeking justice through proper channels, takes matters into his own hands, leading to catastrophic consequences. This resonates with our current crisis of leadership in many spheres. From political polarization to corporate scandals, we're witnessing a widespread erosion of trust in traditional leadership structures. The 2022 Edelman Trust Barometer report found that nearly 1 in 2 people view government and media as divisive forces in society. The leadership vacuum in Judges 19 feels uncomfortably familiar. So, what do we do with this knowledge? How do we prevent our world from becoming a modern-day Gibeah? First, we must acknowledge these issues exist. Denial only perpetuates the problem. We need to have uncomfortable conversations to shine a light on the dark corners of our society. Second, we need to cultivate empathy. The characters in Judges 19 lack empathy, viewing others as objects to be used or discarded. By actively trying to understand and feel for others, we create a barrier against such dehumanization. Third, we must take responsibility. The bystander effect persists when everyone assumes someone else will act, be that someone. Whether it's intervening in a dangerous situation or speaking out against injustice, individual actions ripple outward. Fourth, we need to break cycles of violence. This means choosing reconciliation over retribution, understanding over anger. It's not easy, but it's necessary for progress. We must also demand and embody better leadership. This doesn't just mean in politics or religion. It means in our communities, our workplaces, and our families. True leadership is about service, not power. Judges 19 is a difficult story to confront. It's easier to ignore, to pretend it's just an ancient tale with no bearing on our lives. But that would be a grave mistake. This story, in all its horror, serves as a warning. It shows us the consequences of moral failure, of treating others as less than human, of allowing evil to flourish unchecked. But it also offers us a choice. We can choose to be different. We can choose to stand up for the vulnerable, to use our power responsibly, to intervene when we see injustice, to break cycles of violence, and to be the leaders our world desperately needs. The story of Judges 19 doesn't have to be our story. We can write a different ending. But it starts with each one of us. Right here, right now, what will you choose? How will you ensure that the horrors of Judges 19 remain in the past where they belong? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this video resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and share it with others. Together, we can create a world where stories like Judges 19 truly become ancient history.